Welcome to the City of Bakersfield Planning Commission meeting. This television broadcast is brought to you by the local cable companies, the County of Kern, and the City of Bakersfield. You can watch the rebroadcast of this meeting Saturday at 7 p.m. and Sunday at 10 a.m. The agenda for this meeting can be downloaded at www.bakersfieldcity.us. Presiding over this evening's meeting, Chair Cassie Biddle.
It is my pleasure to call to order the July 16th, 2026 Planning Commission meeting. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Chair Biddle.
Here.
Vice Chair Martin. Commissioner Strickland.
Here.
Commissioner Brandt Oliver.
Here.
Commissioner Kaur.
Here.
Commissioner Cater.
Here.
Commissioner Brar.
Here.
Madam Clerk, next item, please.
Pledge of Allegiance.
Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you for attending tonight's Planning Commission meeting. This commission provides an opportunity for public participation in the development process throughout the city of Bakersfield. The Planning Commission considers a wide variety of projects, including subdivision maps, zone changes, general plan amendments, and more. When the applications are received, the City Planning Division analyzes the request. Planning staff will present the facts about the project along with their recommendation to the Planning Commission, who will approve the item or make a recommendation as appropriate. Madam Clerk, next item, please.
Public statements.
Public statements are now received at different times depending on the item. I will call on Madam Clerk to call for public statements at the appropriate time, so please listen carefully for the correct time to speak.
Non-agenda item 3A, public statements.
Does anyone in the audience wish to address the commission regarding items not listed on tonight's agenda? If so, please come forward and state your name. Seeing none.
Agenda item 3B, public statements.
Does anyone in the audience wish to address the commission regarding items listed on tonight's agenda? If you are here for non-consent public hearing items 6A through 6B, now is not the time to speak. You will be given an opportunity to speak at a later time. Seeing none, Madam Clerk, next item, please.
Agenda item 4, consent calendar items.
All matters listed under the consent items do not require a public hearing and will be enacted by one motion if there will be no separate discussion of said items unless staff or a commissioner requests specific items to be discussed and or removed for separate action. May I get a motion approving consent item 4A?
I'll make a motion.
Commissioner Cater, can I get a second?
I'll second.
Commissioner Strickland. Commissioners, please cast your votes.
Motion passes with Vice Chair Martin absent.
Madam Clerk, next item, please.
Agenda item 5, consent calendar public hearing items.
Now is the time for consent calendar public hearing items. If the item is not removed by a commissioner, staff, or a member of the public, the commission will vote on all items in one motion without further comment. If an item is removed, it will be placed at the end of the non-consent public hearing items. At this time, I will open all consent calendar public hearing items. Does any member of the public wish to remove a consent calendar public hearing item? Does any commissioner or staff wish to remove a consent calendar public hearing item?
Am I able to make comment, or if I make comment, I have to pull it?
Commissioner Brar, if you want to make a comment, then it has to be pulled into a regular hearing.
Okay, can I pull 5A, please?
Yes. And it'll go at, well, actually, we don't have It'll go at the end of the hearing, so it'll be 6C.
Thank you.
At this time, the consent calendar public hearing items not removed are now closed. May I get a motion to adopt staff's recommendation on the consent public hearing items not removed, incorporating all staff memorandum and revised staff recommendations?
So moved.
Commissioner Brandt Oliver, can I get a second?
I'll second.
All right, Commissioner Kaur, please cast your votes.
Motion passes to approve item 5B with Vice Chair Martin absent.
Madam Clerk, next item, please.
Agenda item 6, non-consent public hearing items.
Now is the time for non-consent public hearing items. Before we begin, I want to explain how the hearing will be conducted. Staff will first give a report, then those in favor of the project will be allowed to speak. Those in opposition to the project will be able to speak after all those in favor have spoken. Each side will be given 5 minutes to provide rebuttal comments. Individual speakers may ask questions during their statements, but the questions will not be answered until the public hearing on that item is closed. Written comments may be given to the clerk, who will provide copies to the commission. Please be respectful of others participating in the hearing by not repeating the remarks of previous speakers and presenting any new comments or thoughts in a concise and clear way. Ms. Ng, would you please provide us with your staff report?
I'd like to introduce Veronica Martinez, staff planner.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Veronica Martinez, Associate Planner with the Development Services Department. I'm here to present Agenda Item 6A. Item 6A on the agenda is a request to adopt a mitigated negative declaration and approve vesting tentative track map 7427 for a proposed project located at the southwest corner of Chase Avenue and Daytona Drive. The applicant, LAV Pinnacle Engineering, representing the property owners Lout Berkshire LLC, plan to subdivide 21.54 acres into 77 single-family residential lots and one sump in the R1 zone. The residential lots will range in size from 6,600 square feet to 10,818 square feet, with a typical lot size of approximately 60 feet wide by 110 feet deep, or 6,600 square feet. Access to the subdivision will be provided from Daytona Drive on the east boundary. Staff has reviewed the development for compliance with the California Environmental Quality Act. An initial study found that with mitigation measures for air quality, biological resources, cultural resources, and traffic, there would be no significant environmental impacts. The mitigated negative declaration was made available for a 30-day public review. Notifications were sent to property owners within a 300-foot radius and published in the local newspaper. Staff also received written feedback, which was addressed in the staff report. At the May 21st, 2026 Planning Commission hearing, the Commission referred the project back to staff to allow the applicant an opportunity to further evaluate whether the vegetation identified by the Sierra Club as a potential riparian forest habitat could be incorporated into the project design or otherwise preserved. The applicant submitted additional biological information concluding that the vegetation is the result of artificial drainage and does not meet the criteria for a riparian forest or a jurisdictional wetland. The applicant is here today to respond to your questions. Staff concludes that the project complies with CEQA and is compatible with its surroundings, land use designations, and zoning. Therefore, staff recommends the Commission adopt the resolution approving the mitigated negative declaration and approve vesting tentative track map 7427. That concludes my presentation of the project. Thank you.
Thank you. The public hearing is now open. Is there anyone who wishes to speak in favor of the project? Please step to the microphone, identify yourself, and proceed.
Good evening, Chair and Commissioners. For the record, my name is Scott Quintana, representing Lout Berkshire LLC and LAV Pinnacle Engineering. We appreciate the opportunity to return before you this evening regarding vesting tentative track number 7427. This proposal is straightforward. It creates 77 single-family homes on approximately 21.5 acres. The property that has already been designated for residential development under the Metropolitan Bakersfield General Plan is already zoned R1. This project was previously placed on a consent agenda item where it was then pulled and sent back to staff due to a questioning of the impact to a potential riparian forest on the property. It was recommended that our team re-review this potential impact. We took those concerns seriously and it brought with us the environmental experts who completed that analysis to support their findings in person if necessary. The applicant for the project invested in additional scientific analysis. Independent biological specialists completed supplemental field investigations, reviewed historical aerial photography, evaluated drainage patterns, and responded directly to comments submitted during the CEQA process. A supplemental drainage analysis that was part of the neighboring future track map development, of which we will be submitting an application for to the City of Bakersfield in the coming weeks, was also provided, which provided additional context to the so-called riparian forest. The conclusion was consistent throughout those studies. The vegetation on the site does not constitute a jurisdictional wetland or protected riparian habitat. Instead, it resulted from artificial drainage conditions associated with the surrounding urban development. City staff thoroughly reviewed those findings and concluded that the mitigated negative declaration remains appropriate and fully compliant with CEQA. Every agency comment, including those from the California Department of Fish and Wildlife, was addressed through the environmental review process, resulting in additional analysis and enforceable mitigation measures where appropriate. From an engineering perspective, the subdivision satisfies city development standards. Public infrastructure, utilities, drainage, circulation, and emergency access have all been reviewed by the city departments. The only requested design exception is a minor local street modification that the city engineering determined maintains public safety. Ultimately, the question before the commission is whether the project is supported by substantial evidence. City staff concluded that it is. The project is consistent with the general plan, existing zoning, complies with CEQA, and provides much-needed single-family housing in the area already planned for residential growth. For these reasons, we respectfully request that the commission adopt the mitigated negative deck and approve vesting tentative track number 4727, consistent with the staff recommendation. Thank you for your consideration.
Do we have any other speakers in favor of the project? Is there anyone who wishes to speak in opposition to the project? Please step to the microphone, identify yourself, and proceed.
Hello, Chair, Commissioners, City staff, and members of the public. I am Karen Urso, and I am a member of the Sierra Club. So I would like to respond to the comments regarding the potential riparian forest habitat, which has been declared not feasible to preserve, and the mitigated negative declaration. First of all, I would like to say that the Sierra Club supports affordable housing development and does not and never has received money from developers. We are a volunteer organization that is supported by donations and public contributions from members of our community, the constituents who voted for the elected members who put you and advised you to be on the commission. So the riparian area contained in the development was found to result from artificial drainage, as we just heard, rather than naturally occurring water, although of course it is supported by obviously any rainfall that we have. But my concern is, even though it has not existed naturally for eons, or it has just grown over the past few decades, it is still worth preserving as a woodland area. It could increase the value of the remaining lots. It was not said in the report how many lots would be lost. We were wondering why it could not be considered part of the sump area. And if we preserve this area, besides increasing the value of this neighborhood, we would preserve drainage that goes to other wooded areas that are below this. So by paving it over, we stop drainage not only to this larger area of trees, which you can see, and some of you had pictures that you showed at a previous commission meeting where these trees remain green during the summer and provide a cool habitat that will be lost if we simply pave it over with a street. And the restorative value in a natural area versus a concrete path across a manicured lawn or down along a street is significant. Through travel, we see natural areas that are preserved. Mr. Lane will talk about areas preserved in Bakersfield in California, but we know down in Southern California, in Orange County, in Lake Forest, in Laguna Niguel, up in Mountain View in Northern California, the state has supported urban forestry and also preservation of woodland on the wildland-urban interface. And in fact, there are grants supporting the preservation of trees because they are part of California's Extreme Heat Action Plan and nature-based solutions for climate targets because they sequester carbon, they improve air quality, they reduce stress when people are exposed to those, they provide habitat and biodiversity. So I live in Laurel Glen. There are neither laurels nor glens in Laurel Glen, but I would love to live in a housing development. I would consider paying more for a home that had a woodland next to it, that I could go and walk, maybe with my dogs when it's too hot to be on the concrete and enjoy a wooded area. So I would like this to be considered, that we preserve as many trees and woodlands as we can in our city. And also in light of the fact that there are cumulative impacts, maybe not 77 lots, that would impact our air quality negatively, but you saw that there were developments, all over the Northeast Bakersfield, which we do support housing, but they have a negative impact on our air quality, on habitat preservation, and on transportation. So we'd urge the commission to consider the environmental mitigations that would help us improve our environment. Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioners, my name is Eddie Lane. Thank you for this opportunity. I'm with the Sierra Club. About 3 weeks ago, the City Council, without a recommendation from the staff, put $500,000 into the city budget to plant trees. Because the City Council understands that trees are, aside from the health issue, which is critical, they're a quality of life issue. Why are we adding more parks also? One of the reasons I moved here almost 40 years ago, or when I first got here, I saw the parks in Southwest Bakersfield. Of course, those areas were all developed they were virgin land, and they were developed, trees were planted there. Now they're mature, they're beautiful. Here you have an area, small, but a beautiful area that could be preserved. Not just for the residents there, but for other people. Let me give you an example. In Kaiser Permanente, most of you have been there. It's a fancy name for it, but you know what I'm talking about. There is a sump there which has been turned into, and it's fenced, and people walk around there. Now there are trees that are maybe 10 years old, something like that. Ducks are in the water there all the time. It has become a permanent riparian area. And people, especially children, enjoy it. You could fence that area that we're talking about here, so you would not necessarily have a maintenance issue. It could be fenced and protected, both for the residents of that area, and if you have a walking path around there, to come listen to the birds. Listening to birds, that really that gets you into. We get nature fixes. And hearing, you can hear not only hear the birds, but when I must admit I've been there, I could hear the crickets. So preserving something that is of value, aesthetically, not only aesthetically, but in terms of a quality of life issue is so important. Not only is there an example at Kaiser Permanente, but along the river, when there was development there many, many years ago, there is a city path there by Rancheria Road where people walk along there, right along the, and there are big, fancy, beautiful homes there. So as we're moving along, there are opportunities to protect beauty that we have for the residents there as well as for other people in the community. This is an opportunity to save something that's very valuable. And we would ask that you do that. By the way, we did it with the county some years ago. there was property upstream from Lake Ming that was developable. I can't say that word. It could have been developed. It was 14 acres. And a whole bunch of us went to the county and we got it preserved. It's a preserve. Now it's a little bit different, but it's preserved. And now it's preserved for hopefully for a long, long time. But take a look at the beauty. This is a quality of life issue. It's a quality of a life issue. So we ask you to consider that.
Do we have any other speakers? Does any commissioner have any questions for the public on this item? Remember, this is not the time to express any opinions on the matter. It is only time to ask questions. Daniel Keeter.
My question is for staff regarding drainage sumps for tentative tract developments. I don't know who from staff would be the best. Thank you, Mr. Trujillo. Does current standards allow for riparian vegetation within drainage sumps within the city of Bakersfield?
I tell you, but that'd be the first time I'd see one, at least in my experience. That's not normal, not typical.
Okay. So I guess my question is, so then is the city policy to remove riparian vegetation when it occurs in sumps? So I've definitely seen by the similar species being discussed tonight growing throughout the city of Bakersfield.
At least going purely off of our standard D9, that is the specific one for the sump design, the answer would be no. There is no vegetation shown within that depiction, so this would be a deviance request. I mean,
okay.
It's not typical standard.
Thank you.
Commissioner Oliver.
My question's for the applicant or whoever's here for that. I just need clarification on, I think the overall site that the owner owns is 21.5 acres, and the part you would like to develop for the tract map 7427 is the 15 acres. Is that correct? So you're not developing this parcel F that's on the map, is that correct?
Would you mind bringing the map up again real quick for me?
I need
It's
help
been a
with
minute.
Yeah, so the part closer to Kern Canyon Road with the, I think it's called parcel F, that's still owned by this. Is there a reason that's not, lots are not being developed on that part of the site?
Are we talking about the property to the west?
To northwest, yes,
Yeah,
correct.
to the
yes,
west there.
Correct.
So, funny story, right? That is a different property owner.
Oh, it is a different
ma'am.
property owner.
And
okay, that's
however,
what I wanted
right, we are under contract with them to develop another application for a tentative tract map of similar design. As part of that analysis, there was this is a long-winded story, but I'm going to answer your question. I apologize. As part of that original analysis, the tentative tract map for that particular property was already approved at one point in time, but expired. That property's map design accounted for the primary drainage that comes through there. It's recognized in the map. It's recognized by the city and is slated to be maintained and kept as part of that tract's development as undeveloped drainage design for the system. Once that happens, the tract map or the tract to the northwest, as we're talking about, we're referencing here, would be developed, and then the drainage from that alleyway that you see on the map now would no longer have subsidiary drainage to either one of those areas. The drainage would be, I guess, funneled right through what would essentially be the intended drainage of the primary drainage that exists now. That was part of the approved tentative map of that development at one time when it expired. The client has elected to resubmit that map as it was originally approved and designed without modification. So at least in theory, as we come, I know we can't necessarily speak about the future, but in theory, that would eventually be, that drainage would remain intact as it was in that original map. So it's not that it's not being developed, it's a separate property.
Okay.
And it's in process.
Okay, that was my main question, is that the footprint you're showing
Yes, ma'am.
for VTTM 7427 is this current owner's entire parcel that he owns,
Yes,
correct?
ma'am.
That's the only thing we're looking at tonight, and I just, the reason for my question is because we're talking about, could you move this up? Could you do something else? And that's why I'm asking that question.
To answer your question, yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Commissioner Strickland?
Thank you. I have questions for the applicant as well. Sorry, I know you just sat down.
I'll just stay.
Maybe.
Yes, sir.
So just a quick question. We read your response letter dated June 23rd, I think it was. I know there's a lot of focus on the definition of riparian forest, but I think the intent of the discussion we had when we sent this back to staff was, can we look at a way to preserve the trees, not define riparian forest? We're really looking at the greenery is what we're talking about. In the response letter, it stated that it would be infeasible for the project to move forward if those trees were maintained. I didn't see anything that supported, not a calculation, but what lots would be impacted if we were trying to protect that area. Could you speak to which lot specifically? Is it 1, 2, 11, and 12 that this runs through? I have it in front of me if
Okay, good.
if they want to share my screen or they can go back, either way.
That sounds right. I'm looking at the general overlay here, right from memory. But you're probably looking to the tune of something to depending on the boundaries of what constitutes the extents of this riparian forest, quote unquote, 3 to 5, maybe depending on the layout, possibly more. I suppose that would be the answer to your question.
Yeah, I think that's helpful. I think I'm trying to ballpark it, but it looks like lots 1, 2, 11, and 12. And then I guess the other question would be, could you speak to what your letter referenced that the engineering team had looked at it? Could you talk to some of the strategies they may have looked at for maintaining this? Would it have turned into a Greenland of a park, or would it just been fenced around? Can you talk about what preservation activities they may have looked at?
In regards to the lotting study, or in regards to the biological
The lotting,
evaluation?
I would say the lotting study, and if we were to keep this section of trees in this map, how would they have looked at preserving that?
I can speak to it from an economic perspective, I suppose. I don't know. We had a conversation about it technically, sure. For what it's worth, I would argue that what we do when it comes to lotting studies are, while technical, are not, space science, right? We could redesign, I suppose. That comes at a time and a cost associated with it. This project also has a fun story, right? It was an expired approved map at one point in time, was recreated, went through the process of approval, and then comments were provided from California Fish and Wildlife. Ultimately, we then had to embark on a pretty comprehensive biological analysis that included blunt-nosed leopard lizard surveys, amongst a litany of other items. That process took, 12 to 18 months to do, and had a cost to it that was not insignificant. The amount of time and effort and energy that went into generating and designing this, based off of the previously approved map, was also not insignificant. And the evaluation of this project from an economic basis was done so based off the lot count, the sunk capital, the timing, the cash flow design, et cetera. And it was ultimately determined that, the additional costs associated with going back to square one and starting over was prohibitive from obtaining the end goal, which was economic housing for the R1 zoning development that stands now. So I guess I don't know if that answers your question from a technical standpoint, but yeah, it was a conversation that was had is about how you navigate that process, and that essentially takes us back to the beginning of the process. So it was ultimately deemed that that would be it would be quite prohibitive to obtaining a successful development from a cost perspective.
Understood. And then not related to this track map, just generally speaking, since you're developing another track map in a similar fashion, I think the overall, I'm going to get into comments, so that's all I have for questions. Thank you so much.
Would you like me to sit back down?
You can for me.
Okay.
I just have a follow-up question. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
I just have a follow-up question to something that was said during Commissioner Brant Oliver's questions. You referred to a future parcel which is not under consideration tonight.
Yes.
And indicated that the development of that parcel would redirect the flow of drainage away from this site. So what is the plan right now for this current site, should this be built without the adjacent parcel, to direct water away from this apparent low spot?
Well, I would say that part of the lotting study that's done as far as the tentative map is concerned is a preliminary drainage analysis is completed.
Okay.
And within the topography of the base map and the design of the lot layout and the retention pond or the retention pit that's shown on the map now is essentially the ideal spot for that drainage to be located.
Okay, yeah, I guess just because in the comment you had mentioned, looking at the, Madam Clerk, if you could go to the slide previously. I think, yeah, that brown swoop, if you will, is redirecting water away from the site. And if that's not there currently, has any sort of drainage that's going onto the site from adjacent parcels been studied in the drainage study?
For what it's worth, that brown swath, if you will, right, is natural as it stands right now. There's obviously different directions and avenues that you could take that, but the future tract development, which I understand is not in discussion tonight, however, that drainage analysis from that project was included in the staff report. So I think we can probably speak on it at least to some specific. That would be designed essentially to, yes, veer that drainage that comes through what would be essentially is a culvert under the road. And that is the primary drainage path flow for that system. Erosion and time, as a result of water flow during, say, 10-year storms or whatever the man-made drainage system was for the general plan of the development, has caused what would be that secondary or tertiary offset drainage. So the drainage design itself for the singular tract that we're talking about tonight, the retention design was optimized per that drainage analysis. The neighboring development would then incorporate what would essentially turn into a natural-based canal system, right, for that culvert, which, again, at one point in time or another, was the original intention.
Okay. So then, do we still have an aerial photo of the project? Just so I understand, it's always hard in winter. It's a lot easier to tell the site in summer. But
I think IT could just share my screen. I've got one pulled up.
Thank you.
If that's helpful.
If you wouldn't mind sharing Commissioner Strickland's screen. IT.
We need the help of tech services to show Commissioner Strickland's screen.
Thank you, Missy. Yeah. So I guess the observant storage of water in the site that has produced an environment that has rendered these trees viable in the heat of summer. That's largely coming from the west, or is that largely coming from development in the east?
I'm sorry, say that again one more time, please.
So this area has been referred to as kind of spillover from existing development. And I'm just clarifying if the development that's existing that is causing the spillover is more northwesterly or more easterly?
Good, fair question. If you zoom out to a more expansive view, the drainage that was originally coming from there, you can see is really kind of from the directly north, right? It comes from a culvert under the road, and as you can see, that specific area up there has been developed time and time again, and there's still some remnants, if you will, of what was once existed as a natural drainage pathway, but that has since been shut off from the 178 south. So what drainage comes from the existing development that sits to the north would theoretically pass through the culvert and head towards what we would call that brown swath. Once that was in place, the water really wouldn't be traveling anywhere else.
But prior to that being in place, because we're not looking at that project, we're looking at this parcel, are there mitigating grading efforts done to stop water from making its way onto the lots that?
That is a question that I probably cannot answer for you specifically. I couldn't answer to whether or not grading has been done on this property specifically to divert flow. I don't know the answer to that question, sir.
Okay, thank you. Okay.
Don't mind.
Sure.
Yeah. Please proceed.
Blaine Neptune with McIntosh and Associates. Everything that you're looking at here is part of the Breckenridge Planned Drainage Area. There's been a master drainage study in place for 25 years. There's about a 30-acre, 40-acre project a little south of here that will be the Breckenridge sump. So this is all part of a Breckenridge Planned Drainage Area. It's been studied, it's been adopted, it's in place. Every developer in this area pays into it when they record a map, and it goes towards those facilities. So, staff can look at the Breckenridge PDA and inform you guys a little bit more on it, but all that's been planned.
Sorry. No, excellent. Excellent comments. I will just add to it as well, right? When we originally submitted the tentative map, several boxes, right, need to be checked on that preliminary analysis. And this was one of those boxes, right? Utilities, water, traffic, drainage, et cetera. All that stuff had been done on that master plan, and they were very quick, confirmational checks that, hey, this has been evaluated, this has already been assessed. And so it kind of became something of a pass-through item, really.
Commissioner Brewer.
I have a question for the applicant. When was the original map approved?
Oh gosh, 20 years ago.
20 years ago, okay.
I think they had a 20-year shelf life at one point.
Those are good times.
Right? 2008.
And I don't recall if it was yourself who mentioned this as far as the riparian. I believe the term was used it was the existing vegetation there is artificial, quote unquote.
If you wouldn't mind, I would prefer that the biologist respond to that question.
Yeah,
he's here tonight.
Okay.
If you don't mind.
Yeah,
okay.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Hey, good evening. Steve Pruitt, Pruitt Biological. With respect to the vegetation that presents as a riparian area, that was introduced just basically from the flow that comes on the cottonwood trees. Some of the vegetation that's there wasn't introduced by planting. It just naturally occurs as stuff rolls through there and gets seeded over the past, going back to about 2008, probably is when the first growth started coming up. Does that answer your question, Commissioner?
Yes, I think there was a comment in the beginning of this that mentioned that was, I don't know if the term was artificial, but it was.
Artificial to me, that's depends on who you're looking at for definitions on that kind of thing. It wasn't artificially introduced that it was domestic, say what you plant in front of your house. It was naturally occurring is that it just rolled in. It wasn't planted by anybody. Is it artificial? Those are naturally occurring plants.
Okay.
But they only exist as a result, it doesn't fit, like I said, the jurisdictional wetlands definitions. It doesn't fit the riparian definition. There are plants here that present, but it doesn't fit the definition of a protected habitat.
Okay, and obviously you studied this area and studied this lot and reached out to the corrective agencies to see if anybody had comments. Nobody had comments that this would become an issue from a biological standpoint?
And my understanding is that California Department of Fish and Wildlife, United States Fish and Wildlife, everybody already commented on this before I was ever shown a letter that called that out. We did address it in our original biological resource evaluation last year and said that it does present this way, but there are other factors that just because it has vegetation that may be associated with that doesn't mean it qualifies.
Okay, understood. And from your standpoint, this property owner, whether he moves forward with this or not, has every right to do whatever they want to do with that existing vegetation, whether they brush that lot off.
Yeah, there are no legal restrictions agency-wise. It is a beautiful stand, but there are no legal restrictions that prevent the applicant from moving forward.
Understood. Yeah, I acknowledge that. Just from a standpoint of the property owner, whatever is the outcome of this, they have every right to do whatever they want to do with that vegetation.
My understanding, based on the law, is that they have the legal standing to move forward with the project the way it's designed.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. I have one more question for Public Works. Just want to clarify one more time, the standard detail for City of Bakersfield sumps. From my experience, I know the city doesn't deviate too much from those detailed sumps. Would not allow this type of vegetation inside of a sump?
We would definitely need to discuss this further. One of my concerns off the bat would be maintenance, because as you're aware, the city would be responsible for maintaining a public sump. So we would really need to take this into a deeper dive with our staff and see if it's something we can entertain. Like I said before, it is not per standard.
Okay. From your experience and what you've seen with the city's maintenance of sumps, based off of what you see, if this was a sump, do you, from your past experience, would you recognize that this may or may not be an issue for the city's maintenance of it?
We're going to have to discuss that with our water resources staff. I really don't know what equipment they have on hand, if maintaining this is possible with what they currently have. It's not really a question that I can answer.
Okay, thank you. That's it.
Commissioner Kaur.
Actually, I think that answered my question. The maintenance, so if we were to preserve this area, the maintenance financially will fall onto City of Bakersfield.
If I could, Commissioner Kaur, that's not necessarily true. That is a question that's unanswered at this point. I can tell you that for the Recreation and Parks District, who would probably maintain this in some way, they don't have the funds to. It would probably be incorporated into some sort of maintenance district process, and that is another tax burden on the payers into that area.
I just kind of have a simple question for the biologist. I'm sorry. One more time. Can you give us the definition of a riparian forest?
That'd be a long statement, but yeah, it requires water movement, slow water movement that allows for growth of vegetation similar to this, but under jurisdictional wetlands, then you're looking at hydric soils, you're looking at whether or not the flow is consistent, whether or not you have regular water. The break-off for all of those things, though, is whether or not it is as a result of introduced artificial source, and this is. So regardless of the soil types, the vegetation community, all of that really comes down to starting with, is this directly as a result of introduced human activity? And the answer to that question, the beginning of the Corps of Engineers wetlands definition is yes, it is.
That's all I had. Thank you.
Okay.
I have one more question for biologists. Sorry, catch you before you get too far.
That's okay.
From your experience in this area, I'm sure you're probably familiar with this area. The developments to the north and east, as accessed on the existing map, at one point in time, would it have had similar vegetation as proposed on this project?
I can give you a personal answer to that question because going back to the 1970s, I grew up about a mile just northeast of there off of 178. And the existing vegetation out there was all non-native grassland outside of, a couple of the areas when they started building and developing, you do introduce water that then has these types of vegetation types, but no, these did not exist up until after the 2000s when the development came in. It was non-native grassland, bromes, avena, all that from basically almost Rio Bravo, what was the golf course, developed in 77, and View Street and the old Mesa Marin, it was grasslands all the way up and over the top onto Fairfax and then Warney Drive.
Would it be fair to interpret that, based off of your comments, that this had become grown, for lack of a better term, due to the adjacent developments and how maybe the adjacent developments changed how water flowed, and this existing property?
That's absolutely correct.
Okay.
So
due to the
areas now that exist that have turned up this way with cottonwoods, you get wash down, you get things coming out of the Kern Canyon area, you get birds that carry in seeds from places, drift for all the Fremontia that grow in that area, and all of that is as a result of the development that's occurred going back to about 1975.
Okay, so due to the development in the surrounding areas, which were obviously allowed to move forward because they're houses, this had become, again, the word's not coming to me, I'm just saying grown.
Correct.
Okay.
I understand artificial. I hope you understand my hesitance in saying it's not artificial and that it's
Yeah,
planted
it's real,
by
but,
somebody, but it is an occurrence that would not occur but for the development that's grown up around that area.
Understood. Thank you.
Okay. Is there anyone who wishes to provide a rebuttal on this item? If so, please be prepared to step up to the podium. Each side will only have 5 minutes, so make your comments succinctly without repeating the remarks of previous speakers to ensure that everyone wishing to provide rebuttal comments has a chance to do so. Do I start with in favor?
Yes.
Okay. Do we have any speakers in favor of the project for rebuttal? Seeing none, do we have any speakers in opposition?
Hello again, I'm Karen Urso with the Sierra Club, and I just wanted to mention that one thing that other neighborhoods in California have done is to provide a protected conservation easement with an HOA managed easement so that it wouldn't be a burden on taxpayers or city funds.
I will now close the public hearing on the item and return to the commission for comment and action.
Can I comment asking tech services to unshare my screen now? I've been kidnapped.
Sure. Before we begin, IT gods that are among us, Commissioner Brant Oliver's screen has gone dark. Thank you.
Commissioner Strickland.
Thank you. I didn't realize I would be first in the queue. I just have a couple comments. One comment I'd like to make is I think the intent of the discussion when we sent this back to staff or referred this back to staff for assessment, I understand we've talked a lot about the definition of riparian forest versus artificial versus naturally occurring and native. I think the overall intent from the commission at the time was there are active large trees growing on this property at this point. Could we preserve those trees for, call it whatever you want, call it for the birds, call it for the public, call it for just the fact that we're slowly starting to turn around and plant trees in the city again. So I just want to make the caveat there that I personally don't care if it's riparian versus other source. To me, it was the existence of large trees. And outside of this map set, northwest of that is a larger section of trees that I think is something I just want to make cognizant of, that whatever we decide on this is going to be either forced in line or it makes the next one weird because it's the same topic that's going to come up again very shortly. I still would like to say I appreciate the applicant for coming back on this. I do have a couple comments that I think maybe there could have been a little bit more engagement between the applicant and the town on some of the, or the city on some of the items we're talking about. Sump design, potential saving. I think the intent of sending it back was how can we preserve the trees in a good effort? And we're having discussions now on, well, who would manage the sump? Could we have done that? I just think there could have been better collaboration on that part. And then I would point out, as discussed a couple of times, our city council is actively trying to plant more trees. So I just want to keep that in mind as we vote that, you know, removing trees or potentially eliminating sections of now naturally occurring trees is counter to that. But with that, I yield.
Commissioner Barrar.
Thank you. I want to acknowledge the applicant and the opposition. I do appreciate everyone's time and commitment to their thoughts. I do just want to make note and also acknowledge the time it takes to get to this very stage of a project, the money and sheer willpower it takes to check every box the city requires, and the amount of you know, these studies, just from experience, aren't cheap, and not necessarily the money matters in this situation. But I feel like when you outsource studies to licensed individuals who it is their job to survey these type of things, I think it is very important we acknowledge their recommendations and understand, you know, when we're sick, we go to doctors. When we're in trouble, we go to lawyers. Same thing with biologists or cultural resource studies. When we seek those studies and they make recommendations and they make points, it's very important that we also acknowledge it in that same way, and not taken away from understanding that there is a need to obviously take care of this beautiful world we live in and do the absolute best we can, whether it be here on this stage or as developers or as an activist group, to try and just do a best in a collaborative effort. With that being said, with the comments that this is, we keep emphasizing on this vegetation, I just really want to hound into the fact that based off of the biologists' history and knowledge of the site, this wouldn't exist if it wasn't for sites that developed nearby. And I find it would be disadvantageous on a commission stage to hammer down on this property owner when nearby we're allowed to move forward. With the data showing the way it is, and it won't have an impact, I just want to make sure that's put into the record. Thank you.
Commissioner Brandt Oliver.
Thank you. I do also agree. I love both sides' comments. I'm definitely I think my initial thoughts on why I kicked it back was I was initially convinced that riparian meant it had been there forever. I didn't realize until now that it's something that's occurred through the drainage process got changed from the other subdivisions. So I've learned that this week. And however, I do understand that we want trees, and that's the goal. So it's not, I believe you're in agreement that whether it existed 50 years ago or 20 years ago, you still want trees. My opinion, though, is that I'm counting roughly through satellite map, 12 to 16 trees. And if we removed, I'm thinking you're being light on how many lots would have to be removed in order to preserve that particular line. I'm thinking in the neighborhood of at least 5 or 6 lots. Even if it was only 4 lots, I would believe that those 4 lots would incorporate more than 2 trees per lot. So I don't see us losing this many trees by keeping the tract map the way it is. So for those reasons, I would like to just give my opinion that we, and then the reasons you brought up, Commissioner Breyer, as well, that I'm in favor of proceeding with the tract map the way it is.
Commissioner Cater.
So starting macro, working micro, I think this track map, this strand of trees, is that I think that's the appropriate term, and how our city deals with and acknowledges how trees and riparian or strands of trees develop in our city needs to be understood at a better level. I think one of the challenges of this project is if you read through the biological studies, Fish and Wildlife recommended the contraction of a biological surveyor who provided their recommendation. They offered to be part of the ongoing conversation. They just were not taken up on that, and that is not something we as the city require. I think part of the challenge of not, so basically they gave their initial comments, did not provide complete comments because they were not asked and it's not in their purview. One of the challenges of that is that we as the city of Bakersfield do not have a currently active habitat conservation plan. So it has to go to the state level. So as a city, as we talk about local control, local appreciation, local way, the document that would allow us more local control when looking at habitat conservation is not active and not current. My understanding, I believe, that one is on its way, and there's been work at a staff level to mitigate or to change that, and I applaud that effort, and I look forward to seeing it. But I just want to acknowledge that part of why we are where we are is because we don't have a good history of keeping these documents active, having strong local policies, and in that point, we have to go directly to a state agency or a federal agency because we have no local document at this point. I bring up the idea of the sump because essentially this site becomes a study in how trees naturally occur in Bakersfield. They collect in areas where water pools, where water collects, low points, drainage points, because the sum of flowing water needs to collect to congregate enough irrigation or enough natural rainfall to sustain a tree or a plant of that size. And so to me, I think this riparian zone, or sorry, not riparian, this strand of trees that has emerged based on an observed low point in the site, to me, there's 2 approaches. One is the physical object of the trees that have been allowed to grow for 20 years. The second is that our city's approach to stormwater management, collecting water, directing it towards a sump, is implementing that same system throughout our city of Bakersfield. And one is proposed for this project, has been integrated to this project. And so my question would be if those areas are wrought for riparian zones, if there's observed riparian zones trying to make it in those, and then we clear cut them throughout the city. My question would be to the city how we're introducing artificial water flow, but we are introducing a natural concept of water collection and tree growth, which is observed along water corridors throughout our city. And so to me, I think one of the challenges of this project is, I will say the response, to echo what Commissioner Strickland said, I think the response one, unfortunate economics is not something that we don't have a right as a commission to say what you should or shouldn't make on a project. We are looking at balancing your rights with the good of the city. And so that's sort of out of our purview. I think secondly, when it comes down to cost, the main presentation was that it would be too hard to redesign this project, which to me indicates that how we see existing trees, existing strands of trees, doesn't even make it into the radar of these projects. I'll note our municipal plan currently states that existing developments that have trees, you can't remove trees, but it doesn't really say anything about existing trees that exist on sites before they're developed. And so, I mean, to me, one part is just as we work through habitat conservation, as we work through open space, as we work through our general plan, that we adopt better policies at the get-go when someone comes to develop. My question about grading is more technical in that if trees have collected in this point and the observed drainage is from the north, that means to me that this is a low point in the site. So I was just curious if, knowing that a lot of that flow is happening from a property that's not part of this track map, if that flow has been rediverted so that we don't have a low point in those 5 lots that we couldn't lose, you know, because I couldn't find the drainage analysis within the document. But so I guess to me, what I would be looking for is this site has sustained a strand of trees that has provided a benefit to the community, that has been kind of a model. It was noted in the biological study that these strands of trees that pop up amongst provide potential critical habitat for endangered species. I will note it didn't say that there were endangered species on site. The nearest observed sites were, you know, a mile this way, a mile that way. But it was noted that these shade covers do provide critical habitat. And so I would be open to having the city work with the developer to, if the new drainage collection area, which is why these trees exist in the first place, now exists 500 feet to the west, that if the city could work on a more natural approach to water collection in the city that would help sustain this habitat while working with the developer to move forward and provide housing in this area.
Okay.
I do have another question. This might be for the biologist one more time. No more further questions? Okay.
Ms. King, are we allowed to, the comment, it's just
sorry,
comments right
I
now.
was chatting with staff. Yeah, the comment period already ended, and well, actually, you can give opinion at this point, but
Opinion,
no
no
more
questions.
questions. No, sorry.
Okay, understood. I would like to just make one comment that, and Commissioner Cater, I do understand your approach and acknowledge it, and I think it's a good point. From my knowledge, from an engineering standpoint, limited knowledge, obviously I'm not an engineer, they're going to design a site relatively to put drainage at the lowest point of the site. From what we see here, I do see the drainage is about on the southwest axis of this existing proposed development, and with that box culverts coming down the south, that tells me naturally, or how development has happened over the years, water is going to continue to fall more south. I imagine over time with the adjacent development and the development in the past that maybe a cavity or a furrow of area water drained and that allowed room for this vegetation, strand of trees to grow. That's it for my comment.
When we referred this back to staff, the comments that we received that day, we didn't quite have enough information on it. So in my opinion, that's why we sent it back. But when looking at what the definition of a riparian forest is, it means that it needs a natural course of water. And when you look at this site, that is not what we see. What we see is man-made drainage that does need to be addressed, but that does not mean that this tree needs to stay just simply because it grows. We also have a dead tree problem in Bakersfield, and that's what's really brought a lot of this to our attention. Right off of 24th Street, we have a queen palm tree that grows up from the sidewalk. Just because it was able to land there and get to 8 feet doesn't mean that's where it naturally needs to stay. So I agree with the Sierra Club. We do need to look at our tree canopy. I am so glad to see that City Council has invested in that and is looking at places that we can put trees that are going to survive and continue to be part of our community for multiple generations. So not belittling our tree line, we definitely need more trees, but we need to be smart about where we put our trees to make sure that they can stay maintained, maintenanced, and part of our beautiful community. So with those comments, I would like to come back to our commission for a motion.
I'd like to call a motion to approve.
I have a motion from Commissioner Barrar for an approval. Do I have a second?
I'll second the support of this vesting trap map.
All right, I have a second. Commissioners, please cast your votes.
Motion passes with Vice Chair Martin absent.
Madam Clerk, next item, please.
Madam Secretary, there were no votes. Can you also read those? Can we do a roll call vote if you can't get the screen back?
Chair Biddle?
Yes.
Commissioner Strickland?
No.
Commissioner Brandt Oliver?
Yes.
Commissioner Kaur?
Yes.
Commissioner Cater?
No.
Commissioner Brar?
Yes.
Motion passes with Vice Chair Martin absent and Commissioners Strickland and Cater voting no.
I believe Commissioner Strickland has a prior commission or obligation. Does he need to leave now?
Do we close this item fully first, or?
We already did because
Okay.
we already voted, so
All
thank
right.
you.
Due to a prior engagement, I have to leave before we start this one because I will not be able to stick through the entirety as required. So thank you. Good night.
Do we need to have the record show anything, Ms. King?
No, he already announced it. You're good.
Madam Clerk, next item, please.
Item 6B.
All right, Ms. Ng, can we have your presentation, please?
I'd like to introduce Yazid Alagari for this project.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Yazid Alugari. I am an assistant planner with the City of Bakersfield's Development Services Department Planning Division. Agenda item 6B is General Plan Amendment and Zone Change number 24-0003. The applicant is McIntosh and Associates on behalf of the property owner, Blue Mine LLC. The project site is located north of Snow Road, south of 7th Standard Road, east and west of Shane Street, on a total of approximately 77.3 acres. The project site is zoned E, Estate 1 Family Dwelling. The project site general plan designation is SR Suburban Residential. The applicant is requesting an amendment of the land use designation from SR Suburban Residential to LR Low Density Residential, and a change in the zone classification from E Estate 1 Family Dwelling to R1 Single Unit Dwelling. Planning has received comments in both support and in opposition of the project. Staff recommends approval of the project, and that concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Okay, the public hearing is now open. Is there anyone who wishes to speak in favor of the project? Please step to the microphone, identify yourself, and proceed.
Good evening, Chair and Commissioners. My name is Blaine Neptune, and I'm with McIntosh and Associates. I do have a response letter from the biologist that I'd like to hand out. First, I'd like to compliment the city staff for their hard work on this project and on the Bakersfield Rise general plan update. There was a great presentation last night given to City Council. The vision established by the city staff, Planning Commission, and City Council provides a clear path for responsible future growth in Bakersfield while helping meet the community housing needs as identified by the California Department of Housing and Community Development, HCD. This evening's request is pretty straightforward. We are asking to amend the general plan land use designation from suburban residential to low-medium residential and to rezone approximately 80 acres from estate residential to single family. More importantly, this project helps implement the vision the city has already established through the Bakersfield Rise general plan and adopted housing element. The housing element recognizes that Bakersfield must continue planning for the future housing opportunities by maintaining an adequate inventory of residential land, reducing barriers to housing development, and providing opportunities for housing at all income levels. This project does exactly that. The site is currently vacant, and it is not an isolated piece of property. The land is to the immediate north is already zoned R1 with some R4 also. Shane Street has been long planned as a future north-south connection through the project. The project will allow up to 469 additional traditional single-family homes, representing a gross density of approximately 6 homes per acre, which is fully consistent with the proposed low-medium residential designation. This reflects the types of neighborhood that Bakersfield has long been known for. These homes are for families, first-time home buyers, and Bakersfield residents who want the opportunity to own a home and remain in our community. Overall, this request is consistent with the city's adopted general plan, supported by the housing element, and is compatible with some of the surrounding neighborhoods to the north, and represents the kind of thoughtful, orderly residential and growth presented by the Bakersfield Rise general plan. We also today met with residents who are here tonight that to the south, and have agreed to come up with a buffer and some retention basins to help buffer the larger houses, larger lots to the south. Ironically enough, when we were talking about sumps earlier, sumps in this town are specifically designed without vegetation, and they are designed to dissipate water within 7 days. So there's specific mitigation measures that you have to do to a sump to keep it to allowing to be free draining. I have some exhibits too here that I would like to share that talk about what we're proposing to do, where we can implement some sumps, and we can put a restrictive covenant that will restrict any structures or habitable structures within 50 feet of the south property line. So I can share these exhibits with you too. In addition to myself here tonight, the owner and their counsel is here to answer any questions that you might have regarding this project. Thank you very much. Can I hand these to you? Yeah, thank you.
Any other speakers in favor of the project? Seeing none. Is there anyone who wishes to speak in opposition to the project? Please step to the microphone, identify yourself, and proceed.
Good evening. My name's Dennis McLean with my wife Laura over here. We sent a letter to the planning department in May, and I'd like to paraphrase some of that letter for you. We own 2 properties on Snow Road. We formally object to the proposal, general plan amendment, and corresponding zone change from estate to zoning to R1 for the property located on the north side of Snow Road, approximately 8.9 acres. We've lived on the north side of Snow Road, west of DeJuetta, for 50 years, A1 zoning. We enjoy the rural farm life, including raising livestock and growing our own crops. We oppose the zone change of the property to the north of us to estate to R1. The proposal size is not only compatible with our larger acreage lots. Denser city-like housing will put more stress on the area infrastructure and cause problems with complaints of our animals and our rural way of life. When development does happen, if so happens, we request a road behind all existing properties on Snow Road as a buffer extending from Old Farm Road to Jewetta Avenue, so residents can continue to access their properties, including a gate at the Callaway Canal for the 6 properties on the east end. We encourage you to consider a common sense plan for a smooth transition of larger lots and large acreage to medium to smaller heading north to Severance Standard Road. We urge the planning department to deny the proposed zone change from estate to R1, respect the long-term residents of our county island of the ranchettes on Snow Road. One question at the end, has there been a traffic study on that area? I've lived there for 50 years, and now during the rush hour and the school hours, it's bumper to bumper on Snow Road for 1.5 hours. So I'd like to have that answered, please. Thank you.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Maureen Bright. I am an attorney with the law firm of Bright and Brown, and I'm here representing 3 different entities that are significantly impacted by this proposed project. The first entity is Crimson Resource Management Corp. I will refer to them as Crimson. Crimson is the bonded oil and gas operator of record over this property, as well as a lot of surrounding properties. The second 2 entities are Cal Royalty LLC and Cal Resources 1 LLC. Together, those 2 entities own 100% of the mineral interest in the property, which is the subject of this meeting tonight, and also in the property surrounding the property that's the subject of the meeting and operated by Crimson. We're here to object for several reasons. The first reason is the mitigated negative declarations finding that there is less than significant impact on the mineral resources. That finding was predicated on 2 assumptions. One, the applicant came to the city and said, we will provide you with a recorded document waiving surface access rights. My client has the surface access rights with the mineral interest to access the minerals through the surface. The applicant cannot waive rights it does not own. My client does not waive its access rights. The second basis for the mitigated negative declaration was that even if you deprive the mineral owner of access through the surface, it's okay because they can get to their minerals by horizontal drilling. In fact, there was no study done in connection with the mitigated negative declaration to come to that conclusion. Instead, we will offer to you tonight, and in a document that I will provide to the commissioners, evidence that horizontal drilling is not possible in this site. It's in the documents, but just to give you the brief overview, the productive zones underneath this property are multiple. It's not a big continuous zone. They're stacked, and they're divided by different deposits that are impermeable, that don't produce oil and gas. So it's like a stack of pancakes with a bunch of cardboard in between it. In order to get the syrup out of the pancakes, you have to drill through all the stacks. And then they're open to the straw that penetrates the pancakes, and the syrup can flow from all the different zones. Horizontal drilling is a form of drilling where a vertical well starts out vertical, takes a radial path, and turns into a horizontal well. So it starts out perpendicular to the ground, it ends up parallel to the ground. In order to use that methodology, you need to have a producing zone that is contiguous, thick enough and long enough to put a horizontal well into the formation, and then to be able to open that well to the formation. It is virtually impossible to use that kind of drilling in this area. We have a declaration from an engineer under penalty of perjury that would be admissible evidence at trial to demonstrate that to you. Together, those two assumptions led to a mitigated negative declaration. Without the waiver of surface access rights, and given the faulty assumption, a mitigated negative declaration should not have been used. There should have been a full environmental impact report considering the effects of the proposed project on the oil and gas operations. Moreover, despite the fact that it's required under the Bakersfield Municipal Code, there is no plan that we could find in any of the documents to show exactly where the oil company's pipeline easements would be, where abandoned wells are, and how the oil company is supposed to get access to the facilities that affect this land directly. If you look at tentative tract map 7448, you'll see there's 125 lots on there for single-family residences on 4,500 square foot lots. 125. There's 3 lots that have been designated by the word well. I don't know what that's supposed to mean, because under the Bakersfield Municipal Code, if you are developing property that is subject to oil and gas operations, you need to be providing drill sites. And those drill sites have to have a minimum acreage of 2.01 acres. 2 acres. The lots that say well on that tentative tract map, the biggest lot is 19,000 and some odd square feet. That does not satisfy the Bakersfield Municipal Code. Moreover, the access to the facilities for the oil and gas facilities would be through the subdivision. Through the subdivision. There is no study saying, gee, you know, kids play in the street. They go out and play in the street. So what are those oil field trucks supposed to do? Drill rigs? Workers' trucks? Utility repairs? You have access, just dodge the kids. There's no study for that. I will also say that there was no title report prepared for the city for this. There was nothing submitted to you to tell you who the owners are in the property. There's no indication in the record we have of any prepaid, postage prepaid envelopes to the mineral owners, which is required under Chapter 16.16 of the Bakersfield Municipal Code. The vested tentative tract map that we saw, 7448, doesn't list the mineral owners. And as I said, there is no recorded document waiving surface access rights. Now, why are we here now, and where were we when the city was considering the mitigated negative deck? Well, no one gave the mineral owners notice of the hearing on the mitigated negative deck. That was required to be given to the mineral owners because they are property owners. The mineral estate has been recognized in California as an interest in real property for decades, but they didn't receive it. Now, the city gave mailed notice to all the surface property owners, but not the mineral owners. The sign that was posted out on the property gives notice of the meeting tonight, but it doesn't say we're using a mitigated negative deck. There was no sign posted that said there's hearings on a mitigated negative deck. And the only way my client found out about this is because one of their employees happened to be driving out in the area taking care of oil field operations and came across the sign. And my client called and said, why weren't we notified? And my client was told, we don't do that anymore. Now, that's not empty words from a lawyer, because people always accuse lawyers of just saying whatever they want to say out of their mouth. There's a declaration in the package I'm going to leave with you today from our land manager, who was the person who called and who was the person who was told the city doesn't give that notice anymore. Well, that notice is a violation of Bakersfield Municipal Code. So the use of the mitigated negative deck is unlawful. Not only that, there's a provision that says that if any developments violate the city municipal code in terms of its requirements to safely integrate oil operations in any development, that those, that those developments are unlawful. And there's a further statement in the municipal code that says any permit that is issued for a project that is unlawful under that code is void. I would submit to you that the basis of this project, as it's presented to you tonight, is illegal, and that if you did issue building permits for those houses, it would be void. And lastly, I want to say this on behalf of the clients. The zoning that exists right now permits oil field operations, and oil field operations require access through the surface to get to the minerals. The zoning change eliminates oil field operations from the zone. It eliminates it, and that means it eliminates the access rights. And the only value to mineral interests is the ability to get the minerals, or in this case, oil, out of the ground. California follows the rule of capture. It is not yours until you bring it to the surface. The entire value of the mineral estate is in the access to bring the minerals to the surface. So the zone change that would now make oil and gas operations an unconforming use is a complete taking of that right of access. And that is an unconstitutional taking under the law. So, my client is here to ask you to reject this general plan amendment and zoning change and mitigated negative declaration, since we were not afforded the opportunity to make that objection before. We would ask that you just deny it outright, because we're talking about putting 459 homes in the middle of an operating oil field. But if you folks are still inclined to think that might be a good idea, to drop kids in the middle of an oil field, then as a minimum, we would ask that you table this and direct staff to prepare a proper EIR on the project. I have one party favor for everybody. Can I give this to someone? Thank you for your time and the opportunity to speak.
Do we have? Thank you for hearing me. My name is Brandy Williams. I live on Snow Road. On your map would be up Homestead Way. Our property, we've lived there since 1989. I was going to say quite a bit about the oil field, but I think she did an excellent job, so I'll skip that. I'm going to take a moment here and get my other thoughts. In this development that's proposed, there's no buffer set for larger lots, then middle-sized lots, then smaller lots. It's just slamming all of these really small lots along the northern ridge of our homes, our properties. There's the issue of our rural way of life. We have large animals, birds, goats, sheep, chickens, including our beloved roosters and peacocks, and an assortment of other farm animals who live on our properties. Who is going to tell the new homeowners that you propose to put in these homes that we were there first, and so were our animals? They will be complaining about the smells. They will be complaining about the noise. They will be complaining that they moved into a dense neighborhood, and to their immediate south is all these noisy, smelly animals. To them, it's a horrible smell. To us, it's the fragrance of our lives. We don't want our lives disrupted, and we don't want our little strip of the county where all of our rural life has been. We've been there since 1989, but these homes were built in the 70s. So we have a long-standing ranchos along Snow Road, and we would like it to stay that way without conflict with potential neighbors. Will our city attempt to squeeze us out like happened to the people who lived on Norris Road who had ranchos there? They built city homes above them and city homes below them. And then the homeowners started getting sued by their neighbors because of the sounds of their roosters and the smells of their 4-H animals and so forth. We feel this is invasive to our lifestyle, and we would like the city to respect us. We've been there a long, long time. And if there were some other way of making this happen without giving them this low-density housing with the potential of putting in ADUs in their backyard. So we're not even talking about 400 and something. We're talking about potentially 800 homes in that area. And it's just too dense. It's just not commensurate to the neighborhood that we live in and have enjoyed since 1989 for my family, and from the 70s for a lot of the others. So thank you for hearing my opinion. I appreciate your time.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Dominic Patino. My wife and I, Jamie, have lived there since 2005, and we're off of Snow Road, off of Short Hair Way. 20 years ago, many of us here, there was a lot more. Some of them are no longer with us. We're fighting the same battle. And we thought we had won it, and I believe it was Crimson Renewables that came in and pretty much gave the same speech and the same outcome. Right, and it was what it was set, and now we have this new plan that staff has proposed. So my question is staff doing the homework, going back, looking at that? And if so, did they read it and say, no, we can approve this? I don't know how this works exactly. First time I really have looked at everything that goes on up here. So if staff has approved this, then they haven't done their homework. Okay. So I am not an attorney, but and we all know that growth is inevitable, and we're not asking for no growth. We're asking to keep the original plan, the plan that we saw 20 years ago. What I see is an inconsistency with the general plan, land use, compatibility, and transition. The proposed rezoning is inconsistent with multiple policies in Bakersfield general plan land use element, including failure to maintain and establish a buffering and transition pattern. The existing development pattern shaped through prior public process functions as a de facto buffer system. This proposal element eliminates that buffer and replaces it with sharp density increases at our property lines, even with the buffer zone of 50 feet that I just saw a map earlier today of a proposed 50-foot buffer. Wasn't quite sure, first time I'd heard about it. If that was accepted, who's to say somebody doesn't change it? If we have a new group of people up here, a new group of commissioners, who's to say it doesn't change again? This is inconsistent with standard planning practice and violates the city's obligation to ensure orderly and comparable or compatible growth patterns, not abrupt changes in land intensity. Underestimation of true density, the ADUs and the state law impacts. Again, Brandy brought that up on the ADUs. This is really going to impact driving, safety, number of people. And if any of you have been on Snow Road in the morning or late afternoons, it is very congested. And I'm questioning the fact that any traffic studies have been done lately. Last time we were in here, 20 years ago, they said they did, and it was not going to impact Snow Road. The houses never got built, and Snow Road is severely impacted, even with the second lane on the city side of the road. The traffic generation, parking demand, noise levels, overall neighborhood intensity, water supply. Our group of houses just recently drilled a new well and spent a little over $80,000. We drilled a very deep well. Recently, the canal behind our homes, right adjacent to the east of this proposed property, has been concrete lined. So now we no longer have access to repercolation water in that canal. Our natural percolation would come from the surrounding open ground areas. Anybody with an older well that has not re-drilled would need to re-drill. And we've saw that during the last lack of water rain recharge we've had for the last 7 years. Nextly, we have not so close to where our location is, but where Shane Road meets, there's a brand new well there, and I noticed that's where both the sumps are. And that would be a direct line of introduction of contaminants into groundwater. So again, that is a regional groundwater quality control board issue that I don't know if that's been addressed yet or not. And the contamination would come off the runoff from the streets and the houses and vehicles leaking oil. The proposal is also inconsistent with public facilities and service elements. Concurrency requires that infrastructure and services be available concurrent with development. Is there a plan for that? Where is it? And what will it look like? We haven't seen that. So how can we vote to approve the new plan if we don't have that plan as well? Is that going to come later? Service adequacy ensures police, fire, schools can meet demand. Again, where is that going to be? And when? We do know the schools in our area are severely impacted. Our children went to school there. I've never seen so many kids in high school and junior high before. So where are those schools going to be? And are we going to get told that there is not going to be an impact on school and traffic and noise and pollution? That is all I have. Thank you.
Good evening, Chair and Commissioners. My name is Chase Preciado. I am a paralegal with the law firm Lazo Jury here on behalf of Supporters Alliance for Environmental Responsibility, or SAFER. SAFER respectfully requests that you deny approval of Agenda Item 6B because the Mitigated Negative Declaration, or MND, fails to adequately address and mitigate the project's significant impacts on greenhouse gas emissions, hazardous materials, wildlife biology, and indoor air quality. This project would convert nearly 90 acres of agricultural land into 469 residential homes, while also developing a site containing numerous existing oil wells. CEQA requires the preparation of an environmental impact report, or EIR, where there is substantial evidence supporting a fair argument that a project may result in significant environmental impacts. SAFER retained experts in greenhouse gas emissions, hazardous materials, wildlife biology, and indoor air quality to review the MND. Their analyses provide substantial evidence supporting a fair argument that this project may have significant environmental impacts, requiring preparation of an EIR. First, the greenhouse gas analysis is inadequate. Our greenhouse gas expert concluded that the project conflicts with CARB's 2022 scoping plan because it fails to meet key recommendations related to electric vehicle infrastructure, reducing vehicle miles traveled, and building decarbonization, rather than promoting the type of climate-conscious development envisioned by the scoping plan. This project proposes a low-density subdivision on agricultural land. Second, the MND does not adequately address hazardous materials. The site has a long history of both agricultural use and oil production. Our expert identified the potential for legacy pesticide contamination, petroleum contamination, and methane migration associated with the existing oil wells. Yet the MND provides little meaningful analysis of these potential health and safety risks. Third, the biological analysis is incomplete. Wildlife biologist Dr. Sean Smallwood concluded that the biological surveys do not accurately characterize the site's resources and that the project may significantly affect wildlife through habitat loss, interference with wildlife movement, increased wildlife vehicle collisions, and impacts to the endangered San Joaquin kit fox. Finally, the MND does not analyze indoor air quality impacts and the potential for exposure to formaldehyde emissions from common building materials at cancer risk levels exceeding recognized CEQA significance thresholds. For these reasons, SAFER respectfully requests that the Commission deny the proposed mitigated negative declaration and require preparation of an environmental impact report before this project moves forward. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Michael Douster. I am a resident at 7620 Travis Street, and I own approximately 20 acres immediately adjacent and south of this project. I originally had submitted an objection letter back in April, and that's kind of why I'm speaking in this part of this instead of in favor of. But earlier today, I met with the project developer and his engineer, and we discussed some possible mitigations to some of my objections. And the main ones is, like I said, I own 20 acres, and that is approximately 850 feet of shared property line with the development. And my main concern was having 15, 16 neighbors, as opposed to, with the state zoning, it would be a lot less. Some of the mitigations they've offered is placing a retention basin directly north of where my proposed house is going and where my existing house is. and offering the 50-foot setback to the south property line. Obviously, I would prefer it to stay estate zoning, but understanding that I'm not trying to inhibit a developer or a development in that way, but I understand that, you know, my neighbors have other concerns, but my main concerns have somewhat been mitigated. So I don't know if I, continue to object to it necessarily, but some of the items that I was objecting to and for have been mitigated. Thank you.
Any other speakers?
My name is Carson May. I am a newer resident to the area, and I am formally objecting the rezoning to the R1 district, and my opposition is based on significant concerns regarding land use compatibility, the infrastructure capacity, public safety, environmental impacts, and preservation of the established rural character of the surrounding community. A lot of people have already kind of mentioned some of the points. I would like to touch on the fact that the buffer zone in the transition is an immediate change from what it is to high density, low, like not the families, the R1 homes. The applicant mentioned that the properties to the north are of a similar fashion, but those are part of Shafter and not part of the Bakersfield greater development, so those should not be considered in the path forward. The proposed development also raises the concerns regarding the traffic circulation and education. I have young kids that are in school. These schools are already overpopulated. You add 400 some odd homes into this. If you add 400 some odd families with 1 to 2 kids plus, where are those kids going to go to school and how is that going to impact the education of our young youth? Also, all these homes being added will add a lot of impermeable surfaces that a lot of us do rely on the existing groundwater. So changing that water table is going to have a significant cost impact to some of us that may not be able to get water, which is a vital resource to our lives. And changing that will definitely cause severe impact to us in our existing ways of life. I'm going to leave it at that because a lot of other things have already been touched, but I do think that the proposed zoning would have great impacts to this. It would not be in a positive manner for our city. Thank you.
Any other speakers in opposition? Seeing none. Does any commissioner have any questions for the public on this item? Remember, this is not the time to express any opinions on the matter. It is only time to ask questions.
Chair Biddle and Planning Commissioners, I do have a comment. Since we just received the attorney's letter with her position, we would like time to review and respond, both the city staff and the applicant. So I would propose that we can continue with the hearing today. We can close it, but that we refer it back to staff so that we can come back at a later time and address those concerns. So you can continue with the hearing if you want to continue asking questions, but I would recommend that we close the hearing today and refer it back to staff.
Most of my questions had to do with the oil well, but I see Commissioner Oliver, would you like to speak?
I think that's a really, really good idea. A lot of my questions are, and this is something I'd like to know tonight actually, is why isn't a mineral right holder as significant as this? And I understand there's other properties out there with 20 mineral rights, so my family has a lot of them. But 100% owner with 26 active wells, is it not city policy to notify that type of landholder?
We are required to notice the property owners within 300 feet of the project site that are listed on the assessor's rolls. So if the Kern County assessor does not list, the Kern County assessor's office does not list mineral rights owners and addresses. Therefore, mineral owners are not notified. May I ask additional, now that we know that they are an interested party, they will be put on our mailing list for future notices.
If we continue with the hearing, you'll have an opportunity later. Am I correct on that, Ms. King, or how do you want to?
Yes, that's right. But if you want to go ahead, you can make your comment if you'd like.
Mineral interests are assessed by the county tax assessor. These lots have APN numbers on it, and the mineral owners pay property taxes on them. They are on the equalized tax roll. There is a declaration in our package to that effect under penalty of perjury.
Do I need to finish the rest of the hearing, or can we take a motion at this time?
I think it would be appropriate if we just close it for now and then refer it back to staff. You can close it. Like the language that you have.
If you need a movement, I move that we refer back to staff.
I think I have to close it first. So I will now close the public hearing on the item and return it to the commission for comment and action.
Ms. King, just to clarify, since we had speakers in favor and opposition, are we not giving them an opportunity to rebut since they're present before we close the hearing and move it back?
My thought process was that if there were going to be a lot of questions relating to the letter that was just received today, we are not going to be able to give you comments. But if the speakers want to discuss other items other than that letter, then they could do that today. But it's going to return back.
Go ahead and ask the question then. Is there anyone that would like to, or who wishes to provide a rebuttal on this item? If so, please be prepared to step to the podium. Each side will only have 5 minutes, so make your comments succinctly without repeating the remarks of previous speakers to ensure that everyone wishing to provide a rebuttal comment now has a chance to do so. You're in favor of the project?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
Good evening, Chair Biddle and Commissioners. I'm Sabrina Teller with Remy Moose Manley. I'm the attorney for the applicant team. We aren't going to, because we haven't seen the letter that the other attorney submitted into the record, and it seems like the direction of staff and the committee is to continue it. I wanted to let you know that we are in support of that, because we would also like a chance to digest this information and respond to it in a more considered fashion than on the fly like this. So just want to let you know we don't have any objections to continuing it, hopefully to a near-term date. Thank you.
Any speakers in opposition? Seeing none, now I will now close the public hearing on the item and return it to the commission for comment and action.
I'm happy to make a motion to refer it back to staff to be moved to a later hearing once you've had a chance to respond.
Can I get a second?
I'll second.
Commissioners, cast your votes.
Madam Secretary, can do a roll call vote?
Yes, I can do a roll call vote. Chair Biddle?
Yes.
Commissioner Brandt Oliver?
Yes.
Commissioner Kaur?
Yes.
Commissioner Cater?
Yes.
Commissioner Brar?
Yes.
Motion passes to refer item 6B back to staff with Vice Chair Martin and Commissioner Strickland absent.
Madam Clerk, next item, please.
Item 6C, which was previously item 5A.
Ms. Ng, can you provide us with your staff report?
Chair, I'll wait a moment for the chambers to clear. Thank you. Chair Biddle, I'd like to introduce Tony Jaquez.
Good evening, excuse me. Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Tony Jaquez, Principal Planner with the Development Services Department. The item before you is a comprehensive sign plan, CSPN 250012 for the future Maverick gas station located within the C2 zone district on approximately 8.06 acres. The applicant, Yesco LLC, representing Maverick, is requesting approval of a comprehensive sign plan to establish a coordinated signage program for the entire Maverick development. The proposed comp sign plan includes 2 deviations from the sign standards established by the municipal code. The proposed signage includes one 75-foot pylon sign containing approximately 1,057 square feet of sign area adjacent to Highway 99. The municipal code permits a maximum height of 35 feet and a maximum sign area of 250 square feet. One 30-foot pylon sign along South 8th Street, 4 directional signs located throughout the site, building wall signage, and fuel canopy signage associated with the fueling facilities. The comp sign plan is associated with a previously approved site plan, allowing the development of a 5,951 square foot convenience store with fueling stations for both passenger and vehicles and semi-trucks. The signage is intended to improve site identification, visibility from Highway 99, and the customer wayfinding while maintaining a consistent design theme throughout the project. The proposed signage is also consistent with the applicable goals and policies of the general plan and is compatible with the surrounding commercial development pattern. Based on the findings contained within the staff report, staff recommends that the Planning Commission adopt the resolution and approve the comprehensive sign plan subject to the conditions of approval. That concludes my presentation. I would be happy to answer any questions the Commission may have.
The public hearing is now open. Is there anyone who wishes to speak in favor of the project? Please step up to the microphone, identify yourself, and proceed.
Good evening. My name is Kevin Dice. I am with Maverick. I'm the site development manager for this project. I'm just speaking in favor of our comprehensive site plan and ask that you review it. And if you have any questions, I'm here to answer them. Thank you.
Is there anyone who wishes to speak in opposition of the project? Please step to the microphone, identify yourself, and proceed. Seeing none, does any commissioner have any questions for the public on this item? Remember, this is not the time to express any opinions on the matter, only the time to ask questions.
I have a question for planning specifically. Is this the non-conforming sign that's 1,045 square feet? Is it consistent with the other signs in the area, similar to the Love's Truck Stop, the Easy Trip?
That is correct. There's 2 previously approved comp sign plans, one being the Love's Travel Stop. The other is a site. They're located south of Taft Highway, generally west of Highway 99.
Okay, and it's consistent with being 1,100 square feet?
Height as well as square footage.
Okay, understood. And I noticed that the SPR was from 2023. From my memory, those expire every 3 years. Is that still an active SPR?
It is active. They have been submitting building permits, so that keeps it active.
Okay, so if you submit building permits under an SPR, it stays active.
That's correct.
Okay. I have no further questions.
Thank you.
Okay, there was no opposition, so we'll skip the rebuttal. I will now close the public hearing on the item and return it to the commission for comment and action. Can I get a motion?
Make a motion to approve.
Can I get a second?
I'll second.
All right. Commissioner Barrar and Commissioner Kaur. Commissioners, please cast your votes. Are we doing a roll call vote? Oh, no.
Motion passes with Vice Chair Martin absent and Commissioner Strickland absent.
Madam Clerk, next item, please.
Agenda item 7, reports.
Ms. Ng, would you please provide us with your reports item?
I'd like to introduce Phil. Oh, sorry. It's a long night. Phil Burns, Development Services Director. Thank you.
Good evening, Chair Biddle and Planning Commissioners. It is my pleasure to bring to you the draft general plan. It's finally out for public comment. I want an opportunity to bring in front of your commission to make you aware it's there and to encourage you guys to start looking at it. It's about 508 pages, so this will not be a one-night read. Please put some time aside and spend some time with it. Just a quick overview of the process. You know, we're about in year 5. There's been many discussions about that this is coming down the pipe, and I think staff's just to a point now that we're just excited that it's out. We really want to talk to the commission if there's suggestions on different associations or groups that you'd like to see us go talk to about the general plan. Please provide us that information. But again, get a little timeline where we are. Again, started in 2021. Here we are in 2026. Taking a lot of staff time. I want to kind of go over the process a bit, how the general plan has evolved, and the things that were important to the community. We heard desire to preserve existing neighborhoods while enhancing infrastructure. Heard about better connections and connectivity, and about the importance of quality of life. And those were addressed through various items within the general plan, like parks, our complete streets, strategies, and frameworks for mixed use, infill, those changes in land use. Other items that we heard about is the need for economic opportunity for our environmental stewardship. And really the importance of Bakersfield's identity. And again, those were addressed through various items in the general plan, downtown revitalization, workforce development, enhancements in the Kern River, and there is a Kern River element. And really, it's about maintaining community character. So I really want to go over a little bit about the draft general plans, organization, but more kind of big picture. I'm really not going to dive into the elements unless there's specific things you guys want to talk about tonight. What you'll see is an introduction. It's really identifying the overview of the plan, describing how it's organized. Again, that big picture. The chapter 2 is about the visioning process and the engagement process. Kind of gives you an overview of the number of workshops, the different outreach that was done. And there is an engagement process for the upcoming month or so as we go through this also. The land use section. Again, it's the new land use regulations and policies, new mapping, focusing on our various efforts and outreaches regarding the land use alternatives, efforts related to the downtown plans, those type items. There is a downtown specific element, and it's really incorporating all of the other plans that have been done. There's been about 4 or so plans been done over the last 15 years. It's really kind of taking those best items and how do we create that into a true element so that when projects happen downtown, here's your policies and goals that those projects will fall under. And the general plan land use map itself, there's some changes in land use. This incorporates all of the individual at the parcel level, the land use alternatives, which creates changes within land use. Like for instance, downtown, there's a lot more mixed use type use. The Old Town Kern area, there's many changes when land use in that area. MLK Quarter, and a lot of it has to do with how do we re-envision Bakersfield and those areas to provide additional opportunities. And I think that's a lot of the changes in how the plan's organized is how do we, instead of just requiring a commercial use, how do we allow a development to happen and provide those opportunities. The mobility, economic development and safety are 3 other elements that are incorporated. Our transportation, our mobility element incorporates many of the ATP, the active transportation plans, really tries to incorporate the future intended land uses as part of that alignment layout. The economic development element expands on city's strategic plan for long-term economic prosperity and resilience. And obviously our safety and hazard, it's about minimizing risk. Our general plans, this is the roadway classification system. This is kind of what most people see as what's our circulation element map. And this is the arterials and collectors, freeways and such, the map. So there's a new layout. There's some changes in the northwest regarding the West Beltway. A piece that's going north of the West Side Freeway has been downgraded to an expressway. The piece that's going south from there are still staying as a freeway. There's some small changes also in the northeast, some alignments. We had some areas off of 178 and Masterson area that we had some alignments didn't line up. Natural and historic resources really is about protecting what makes Bakersfield special, protecting and enhancing parks and open space. We now have a Kern River element. We used to have a Kern River plan element, so this is more of a typical policies and goals for the river more than a plan. And then again, a quality of life section regarding parks and inclusive public participation. And what you will see as you get reading through the chapters, our environmental justice was incorporated into the various chapters. There's not a specific element for environmental justice, but you will see those throughout the general plan. So what are we looking for the public and the commission to do? And really want to talk about what's still coming. What you will get in the final draft will be a policy index. Right now you don't have that. There's a lot of policies. And once the final is done, there will be a policy index you're able to go quickly find for specific items where those items are. There will be technical studies and outreach summary also that's included, along with a glossary of terms. So these are some questions that really we want you to think about as you review the general plan. Does it meet your vision of what you're seeing, where you want Bakersfield to go? Are there areas that need more emphasis? Does the draft balance the growth as you're seeing our town needs, along with our environmental stewardship? And are there any major issues that you're saying that haven't been addressed? There's been a lot of outreach. The reality is many times we didn't get a lot of participation there. So those comments have been incorporated along with meetings with the commission, the council. But again, we still need that feedback, and during this comment period is that opportunity for you for you and your constituents to comment with us. So what's the next steps? Public draft closes on September 27th. So it was extended last night. We did a similar presentation to City Council. They extended it by 30 days. So there's some additional time. The environmental review will be completed in early 2027 with adoption. This is saying spring, but the reality with the push of the 30 days last night, we really haven't worked the calendars out to see, is that going to slip into early summer or is that going to stay spring? So some of these answers I don't have at this point in time. I did add that the link to where do we go to find the general plan? It's at Bakersfield2045.com. Please scroll down on that page. You'll have both the link to the general plan draft and where you can submit comments. You can also submit comments. There's an email, Bakersfield2045 at bakersfieldcity.com. You can also submit via email. So with that, again, what I do is really encourage the commission to take some time to read through the general plan, provide comments, and reach out to staff if you have some organizations you feel would be beneficial to have a workshop. Please let us know, and we're here to answer. If there's specific questions now, we can answer some of those too.
Can we have a copy of that emailed to us, your presentation?
Yes, we send a presentation. We'll email you a link to where the plan is, and make sure you have those emails also.
And I think you have a presentation tomorrow for the public too. I saw it on the news. Are they going to be doing outreach tomorrow?
I had one today. I actually had a meeting with the DBA today. Okay. That went really well. We had about 30 people or so that were there. So again, same offer there is we really want to get the outreach and want the public to be involved.
Perfect.
Are those dates posted somewhere? So, for example, if you had an outreach today, how do we find out that you have a meeting coming up?
I'm sorry, the dates of the actual hearings. So most of those are placed on that Bakersfield 2045 website. Actually, you know what else? Is there another resource besides? There's about 3 different dates we can provide the commission of when those engagements are. There is a whole engagement strategy that Rincon is putting together. It's not completely solidified at this point. So we can, once it gets a little more solidified, we can make sure that we send out to you guys an email or something of what those locations are.
I was curious what, I've been inspired by the TCC grant, Martin Luther King Revitalization Neighborhood, kind of at a neighborhood scale. What efforts are being done sort of at a neighborhood scale to engage the city as a whole?
So part of the engagement strategy is we still have the CBOs. So we need to reach back out to those various CBOs to actually engage them, have them provide us some locations. At a neighborhood level, is a little more difficult on a general plan. It would be probably more trying to get more of a smaller community meeting, like we've done meetings out at the Friendship House. Some of the budget meetings we recently were talking about were done at various churches, trying to incorporate those at that level to see if we can get more engagement. Again, many of the past opportunities, it was like 20 people would show up when you're providing some sort of a blast or even with the CBOs. The amount of the public coming out at the time is not what we really would like to see. So we're open. If you have other suggestions, Commissioner Cater, please.
I'm thinking about it. Yeah, I know it's hard to find the right venue and the right in a community that can sometimes be a little disparate.
I can add that last night when City Council, they have a desire to push more online and do more social media, more outreach related to various surveys. And it's really hard when you have this big document that how do you glean out unless you really narrow it down to very specific items. So if there's specific items that you think some sort of a survey would help guide, those would also be other helpful items for staff.
That was my only other question on the practice of getting to the final document was if there was an opportunity for the policy, like the list of policies to be issued prior to the final document, just because I feel like an understanding of what's the scope of work of the general plan versus what's not the scope of work would just be helpful in review.
I guess maybe I'm not quite understanding the question. So is there a way of being prior to final? So after this review period, after the draft, is there ability to bring it back earlier? Is that?
I'm just curious because the policies are where like the rubber meets the road, things become law. This is how we work as a city. And so just in the presentation, it appeared that we wouldn't see those until we were at a final draft. And so to me, that feels like not the appropriate time to say, hey, you missed these 4 items because you're looking for a final approval. So I was just wondering if kind of the working policies in place were.
So that's our time now. I mean,
Okay.
the all reality is this comment period is the time to read the document if there's something missing for us to incorporate it in. If something's too stringent, to loosen it up. If something's too loose, tighten it up. Because when those documents come back, it'll be coming back also with an environmental impact report. So all the studies are done at that point in time, and it's really too late to change things of any kind of magnitude at that point in time.
So what I hear is everyone listening on YouTube that everything's on the table right now. Say everything you've ever wanted to say about the city of Bakersfield.
It's out there. Again, the draft documents out there. All those policies, the current policies as proposed, that's in the general plan. That's what the draft is.
Okay. I look forward.
I have a question, Cassie. Can I? Can you give me the specific reasoning behind the city council's 30-day extension yesterday? Was there an opponent? Was there a speaker who brought concern up?
There was our rollout started on the 8th, yet our public notice didn't go out to the 10th. So staff had already moved it out 7 days. And there were some speakers related that brought up the issue of languages. And again, that's something that we surveyed the top 10 cities, the biggest cities in California, and they're all English general plans. So that kind of came up also last night. But the extension was actually Councilor Coleman, who was the one that made the motion to extend it 30 days. He didn't really give a reason besides he felt it's such a big document that we should be providing more time.
One more question. So one of the sections is like management of the minerals, and obviously that was kind of a big subject tonight. Is that a specific industry group that you've reached out to and to provide them, hey, your industry is subject to our new policies within this draft?
No, I have not reached out to the oil industry. I did talk to some engineers that work with the oil industry earlier today about that issue, but I have not set up anything specific yet. That will be on my list.
Commissioner Barr.
I have a question. And excuse me, my brain is fried, so this might not be the best question. From when the general plan is adopted and mismatches between zone changes, how would that process work out for an owner of a property to match them to be able to develop?
Sure. So right now, as you're aware, our housing element, we did pretty significant changes in our residential zoning. So right now we're operating on a resolution that basically says, hey, when you have discrepancies between your zoning and general plan, you use your zoning for those things. So as part of adopting the general plan, we'll be doing the same type of thing. Hey, when you have discrepancies between the land use and zoning, you'll have to go by the general plan until the zoning ordinance and zoning maps catch back up.
Okay, so if X owns a property that is residential now, it's a freeway corridor area, turns in the general plan, once it's adopted, turns into a general commercial area, and they want to put a freeway sign, for example, would they be now permitted to do that without having to do a zone change?
If it was residential now and the general plan changed it to commercial?
Correct.
If they came in after the general plan was adopted, again, once that resolution was adopted also, they would be able to do whatever was allowed within that land use.
Okay.
So,
So if it's
I
allowed
don't
in
think
that-
we have anything that's that drastic that I'm aware of. But potentially, we have a lot of commercial going to mixed use. So could they come in and ask for a residential unit, even though it's currently not allowed, potentially?
Okay, and my last question is there a fully raster-sized map that we can, I'm trying to zoom in on this, it might just be this computer, where it kind of blurs as you get closer and closer into it?
No, there's not today. That is coming. That's been one of our issues with our consultant. So we need something at a parcel level, both for the roadways and for the land use map.
Okay, thank you so much.
I think Daniel and I are the ones that have been on here since this first started, and so it's been a really neat process to be part of. I know you did Zoom meetings at the very beginning, and I was part of those as well, and there was probably turnout about 10, 15 people, and it was mostly people like us. I preach to everybody that I know to pay attention to the general plan, say it to the newspapers, say it to anybody that you can, but I think it's vital that we get this information out there to get people to really pay attention to what the plan is. And I know we did outreach, right? And some of us are a little bit new, but we did outreach to the property owners, giving them the opportunity to change their zoning. Is that how it worked, or can you explain that a little bit better?
In the housing element, we reached out to those, and those that basically sent us a notice saying they didn't want to, then we didn't change them. But far as the general plan is really publicizing people changing, that was a pretty small group based on some road changes that we needed to make. So there were some accommodations for them. And those specific land use alternative areas. The thing that was really more outreach based was pre-zoning the areas that were within the county. So as we know that we're going to grow, and working with those property owners to kind of get a logical development course in those areas.
I had one more question about, if that's okay. In the general plan, has there been any further collaboration with the county about working on kind of the unique county-city interface that we find ourselves in Metropolitan Bakersfield? Like whether it's annexation.
Can you expand on that?
Yeah, whether it's like an annexation of pocket island, like completely encased county pockets, or whether it's consistent standards regardless of whose jurisdiction it falls into?
That's not exactly a general. So we do have an annexation strategy that is part of the land use element. So you'll see that. A lot of that coordination is separate from what's going on. If you're welcome to add some policy language in there about recommending that, their standards are different. So how do you, there hasn't been those communications of how do we collaborate on those standards.
All right, I was just curious.
And honestly, there's a bit of competition. You know, some of those developments tracks next door. So how do you, it sounds easy, but sometimes it's not quite that easy.
I have one more question. That's a great segue into that question.
Of course.
How recent is this map that was distributed?
The land use map?
Mm-hmm.
The one that's that I showed on the screen, that's in the general plan. That is
like
a current
even
map.
the one on the Bakersfield 2045 website, it's the most recent one?
If it's within the PDF of the document, yes.
Okay. I'm familiar with a property on Snow and Callaway that was annexed into the city of Bakersfield on the northwest corner from the county. And on this map, it's still showing it in a county island.
Yep.
And I'm curious to see how that element, because it was a C2 PD in the county, got annexed into the city as a C1. We had approved PDs. We, as in the people I represent on that project, had approved PDs.
I'm very familiar with that project.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm just curious about how
No,
properties like that would have an impact on this.
So those annexations, those are some of the cleanup items. That's where staff also, we've had a high-res PDF. And even that, when you bring a map that's not meant to be zoomed in at that scale, we have a lot of these things that have been missed. That's why the maps are identified right now. They're subject to change because some of those items like this are not clear enough at a parcel level that we can identify that they have all been modified. Same thing, we have some of our housing element items, housing element sites. We know that show still as not the right land use, even though that they're part of our housing element. So we know there's some errors in that map, and we know we have to get to the public a correct parcel at that parcel detail level that they can zoom in and see their properties.
Thank you.
Do I need a motion to receive and file? Can I get a motion to receive and file, please?
I'll submit that motion.
Commissioner Brian Oliver, and a second by Commissioner Keeter.
Motion passes with Vice Chair Martin and Commissioner Strickland absent.
Madam Clerk, next item, please.
Agenda item 8, communications.
Does staff have any communication items?
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to remind you that the Riverview Marketplace Draft EIR is out available for public review, and the link is on the City of Bakersfield Planning website. The August 6th meeting will be canceled, but we will have an August 20th meeting. Thank you.
Madam Clerk, next item, please.
Agenda item 9, commissioner comments.
Does any commissioner have any comments? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, next item, please.
Agenda item 10, adjournment.
This meeting is adjourned at 7:57 p.m. Thank you.